Hey fam, I'm gonna try to make this really quick video because I really have to go to the bathroom and I'm starving. But I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing a lot of people posting this past week or so all about this is what happened to me in 2019 or this is what happened to me last decade, and they post all these pictures of all the things that have happened to them. And of course, since it's social media, everybody's posting all the positive things, got engaged, had a baby, graduated, got a new job. And I don't hate the people that post those things, but I hate those posts. And it's not because I don't want to read and celebrate other people. I really I like doing that. It's just really hard to not compare yourself to those posts. So when you read somebody's, reflection on their year or on their decade, you start comparing what their success is to what you did. And I found that pretty much every time you feel worse about yourself because you feel like you did not have as much success as these other people that you are looking at on social media. So this video it's not any sort of, oh, hey, this is New Year's resolutions, this is what happened to me over the past year. This is kind of the opposite. I have struggled with anxiety my entire life. I'm not even gonna get into the whole situation. It particularly has gotten a lot worse, or it kind of became worse when I started my job as a teacher, because it's a very high stress job. And so last year around New Year's Eve and particularly New Year's Day were two of the lowest days for me in my entire life. I understand how to deal with anxiety pretty well. I understand, how to calm myself down and do deep breaths if I'm about to have a panic attack, or I know the feeling of when I know I'm getting overstressed and things like that. But last year, now that we're in 2018, I started to deal with kind of the opposite side of anxiety, which was depression. And I was feeling sad. I was feeling very low about a lot of different things in my life, whether it was my work life, my friendships, my family relationships, or just my personal relationship. And so that was something I never experienced before in my entire life. And I had a really hard time embracing it, and I had a really hard time understanding it. And so I made it a goal, my New Year's resolution, if you could call it, for 2019 was to make sure that my mental health was the number one priority. And all throughout 2018, I found myself more sad than I was happy. So kind of this simple goal for 2019 was, I want to try to be more happy than I am sad. So what can I do to make sure that I'm more happy than I am sad? And I know that a lot of people, depending on your job and your life, you can post something out there for the world to see, but behind those closed doors or behind that screen, it could be a totally other story. And so as we move into 2020, there are some things that really helped me in 2019. For the most part, be more happy than sad. And so I'm gonna tell you in this video what those things are and how they helped me. And if any of you are kind of feeling the same way about comparing yourself to other people's posts, or you just been feeling yourself, or you've had a hard time lately, then maybe some of these things will help you. If they can't, then I appreciate you just watching this video. But the number one thing I think that really helped me in 2019, and as someone with anxiety and depression, one thing that helped me the most, I guess I would say, this is the number one thing, is just allow yourself to cry and be emotional. We try so hard to stifle feelings, women and men, or whatever gender you are. And the best thing that I realized was helping me get through like feeling sad and depressed sometimes was just literally letting myself feel sad or feel depressed. If I felt that pit in my heart and that sting in my eye, like I needed to cry, I just tried to let myself cry. I just let it out, because I realized that if I didn't just let out the emotion in some sort of way, then I would try to push it down and like repress it, and I would just end up wasting a bunch of time because I would be so consumed with trying not to feel that way, and then eventually feel that way, eventually cry, or eventually get angry, or whatever the case was. And it took me a lot longer to feel better and feel happier, whereas just like, okay, I'm feeling this way, I'm gonna let it out. I feel so much better after I let it out. So I think if you're having kind of a hard time, or if you struggle with any sort of emotional issues, just letting yourself feel those feelings as soon as you know that they're there can help you feel better sooner. The second thing that I would suggest is, if you have the capability to talk to somebody, specifically a licensed professional counselor, I would highly recommend it. On New Year's Day of 2019 last year, I scheduled my first appointment with a therapist, and throughout 2019 I went and I talked to her about every week. And I can't say it was life-changing and that I'm this totally new person and I don't get stressed out anymore, I have no more anxiety, I have no more sad thoughts and depression, but it was a constant in my routine. And she was someone who, and still continues to be, just listens and understands that my thoughts might be all over the place. I have all these things going on in my head and I just kind of need to word vomit them out there. And she helps me kind of process and figure out what's the information that is actually important, that I should worry about, and what's just kind of noise. And so if you have the capability to see a licensed professional counselor, it can only help you. I was fortunate enough at my job where I got a couple sessions for free, and then I started paying out of pocket, and it was not any money wasted. So that would be the second thing I would suggest. The third thing I would suggest is find something that makes you laugh, and makes you laugh consistently. I found, and this kind of took me, trial and error, but I found that whenever I put on a certain stand-up comedian, or when I listened to a certain podcast, I would always laugh out loud, or I instantly felt better. So one thing that's kind of hard when you feel sad sometimes, or when you're not really having the best day, or when you're trying to feel happy instead of feel sad, is we kind of get stuck in this loop, and we don't want to watch something, we don't want to go to social media, we don't want to watch a TV show because we feel like something's going to trigger pain. But if you know that there's something that's always going to make you smile, or always going to make you laugh, go watch it, or go do it. I found that watching John Mulaney, shout out, that comedian, I'd always laugh. Even if I'd seen the Netflix special or whatever, listened to the joke on Spotify, even if I've heard it 10 times already, even just going and playing it, just hearing his voice, made me smile and made me laugh. And when the ladies of The Office came out with their Office podcast, there's something too. I would just go start listening to their podcast, even if I already had listened to it, and it immediately kind of made me laugh or made me smile, and it made me forget about anything that I might be sad about. So if there's something that consistently makes you smile or laugh, I would try to find that and keep that for when you are feeling kind of sad and you want to make your quick fix to helping yourself be happier. And then the fourth thing that might be good for you, and I might get emotional about this, but the fourth thing is I would get, if you can, some sort of animal or something to take care of. Specifically, a dog has what's worked out for me. One choice I decided in 2019 was to get a dog, and it by far was one of the top 3 decisions, best decisions I guess, that I made in 2019, because having a dog and having something to care for, and having kind of just another creature around that needs your attention, that kind of just shows you unconditional love, made me realize that when I am sad or when I was feeling very worthless or very alone, that I wasn't. And if you have the capability to get some sort of animal, I say dog because you want something that kind of requires some of your attention, because it does kind of help you get out of that rut. That does force you to like go outside and walk them or let them go to the bathroom or feed them, you know, versus an animal that's a little bit more self-sufficient. Not hating on cats or anything like that. I'm just saying animals that require a little bit more attention, it can really help you. And I think about like now that I've had my dog for 6, almost 7 months, like I don't know what I was doing like without her, because she has just been such an emotional support for me. And I know that's really cliche and really cheesy, but you know, I never really understood, you know, how powerful owning an animal can be until like I got my dog, because I didn't have a dog growing up because my dad was allergic. So that was a really great thing. So if you have the capability to do that, get one if you don't have one. And then the last thing, and this is something that really personally just worked for me. I don't necessarily know if this is going to work for everybody else, but the other thing is, and I got this from a book actually, is when you are feeling like you're in this mind trap, in this cycle of stress and negativity and worry and fear and panic, think about the absolute worst case scenario. So like for me, if I was like really like I wanted to talk to my boyfriend about something that was like more serious, but I was nervous to talk to him, you know, because I didn't know how he would react or something like that. You know, I would think of the absolute worst case scenario. And okay, the first worst case scenario I think about is like, well, he breaks up with me. That's literally the worst case scenario. But when you think about the absolute worst case scenario, that's not like, in my example, he breaks up with me. It's, oh, he breaks up with me, and then on the way home from breaking up, he gets hit in a car accident and dies tragically. Like, that is the absolute worst case scenario. And sometimes, like, it forces you to think really dark, but you realize kind of once you kind of go through like, oh, well, what else could happen? What could be worse than that? What could be worse than that? That the literal absolute worst case scenario that you can kind of trickle down to is so far-fetched, it almost seems ridiculous. So you kind of wonder like, why was I even worrying like that in the first place? Like, honestly, like this is kind of probably realistically what the worst thing could happen is. And is it really that bad? Well, no, compared to this super dark thing that I just thought about, it's not. So that's something that worked for me. I don't know if that necessarily would work for anybody else, but these 5 things really helped me feel more happy than sad when I was going through a tough time in 2019. They're things that I'm going to continue as I go into 2020. And so I don't know if this is going to help anybody, but I wanted to put a post out there that wasn't, hey, here's all the great things that happened to me in 2019, because realistically, I don't have nothing, I didn't have any horrible things happen to me in my life, but I didn't have any amazing things really happen either that I feel like sharing. So I thought that this might be more helpful and more the kind of content that people would want to see. So, yeah, and just remember that you're not alone, and you know, if this year sucks, there's always another year. So it kind of is all a balance and weirdness in life. And if you're kind of a deep thinker like me, or you're a lot in your head, just try to remember that things are not typically as serious as you make them out to be in your head, and overall it's going to be okay. So I hope everybody has a great new year, a great year. Those of you that are getting back into the work grind, like I'm about to be in 2 or 3 days. I can't remember. I don't even know what day of the week it is. Saturday. I don't know. I hope you get back into the swing of things smoothly. So that's it.